is Abigail and welcome back to Polyglot Progress. I just want to start off by apologizing for disappearing from YouTube for like 2 months. Had I known I wouldn't be uploading while moving, I would have said something and just kind of planned to be away for a little while, but I honestly thought that I was going to be uploading up until April and then just uploading pre-filmed content, but here we are. And I've decided that with moving to a new city and a new state, having a new apartment, I just want to have a fresh start. I am not going to edit all of the recap videos that I filmed and didn't get around to editing while I was gone. I am not going to film my Q1 update, Q2 goals video at the end of Q2. I am just going to move on with other video ideas that I had, film a sort of half-year update and Q3 goals video very soon, and not dwell on the fact that I missed out on making a lot of videos that I was really excited to do and missed out on posting weekly for the past few months and getting around to some of my language goals that I had set out to do in Q1 because I have been so busy. All that said, while I was packing up my things and just getting rid of old stuff that I wasn't going to bring with me, I realized that I had way more language textbooks than I'd even realized. I had drastically thinned out my language book collection before I moved out of my mom's house the first time. Thank you, COVID, for the fact that I am able to say first time. I didn't really want to have a language book collection anymore. I just wanted to have textbooks that I was either using or went back to review material or reference material from, or was planning to get around to reviewing on here very soon. So my book collection became a lot smaller than the 50 to 100 books that I had before I moved to New York. But I had packed all of those books up and just kind of left them in storage at my mom's, which meant that I had to deal with them before I moved to Texas. Spoiler alert, they're still at my mom's house. Sorry, Mom. I did manage to get rid of about half of them, but where I'm going with this is by dealing with 50 plus language books, I was reminded of something that I used to get asked pretty often when I did have a really large language book collection, which is where and how can you buy cheap language books? And so today I am here to answer that question for you, because other than books that I bought while I was traveling in Europe and certain textbooks that I had to buy for my French degree, I have really not spent very much money on language books at all. And yet, at one time, I had about 100 language textbooks. So right off the bat, I will say that the way to get cheap language books is to buy them secondhand. The 3 places that I am going to talk about today all involve getting books secondhand, but this doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be getting books in bad condition. It also doesn't even necessarily mean that you'll be getting books used. I've gotten a lot of brand new, never used textbooks, brand new novels, etc. through these places, and it's just because people will buy things and then not use them and return them or get rid of them, and then they end up being much cheaper than if you just bought them used. So starting off strong, the place that without a doubt I have gotten the majority of the things that I've owned over the years, either language textbooks, books in other languages, DVDs in other languages, etc., is library book sales. I don't know if this one is as applicable for people outside of the US. I just don't know if these are really as common. But in the US, most public libraries hold book sales annually, or sometimes more often than annually, in order to raise funds for the library. Usually how it works is they will collect book donations throughout the year and also toss in some books that were maybe in the library collection that they don't want anymore, and then they will just have a sale and sell all of them, and the profits will go towards the library for funding certain things or buying new books, etc. And the books are cheap. The sale in my hometown always had books for a few dollars at most, and every year on the last day of the sale, usually a Sunday, there would be a deal where you could buy one of those kind of paper grocery bags for $5 to $10. I don't remember the exact price, but it was in that range, and anything you could fit in the bag was yours for that price. I've looked into other library sales as well, and it seems a lot will do similar things. Either you pay for a box or a bag or pay by the pound or something like that, so you're able to get a ton of books for a very, very cheap price. So how I managed to get most of my books from that 100-book collection was I would go on the last day of the sale, buy one of those paper bags, fill it up with pretty much any language-related books I could find that I also was even mildly interested in, and I would leave with like 30 new books for $10. And I know some of you are probably thinking that this sounds great, but it doesn't apply to you and your library won't have any language related stuff at its book sale. But I can almost assure you that it does. I am from a small, very undiverse town. People do not really learn foreign languages or speak languages other than English and have materials for those languages like novels or DVDs. So I definitely never expected to find anything, and yet I always did. But the more I've thought about it, the more sense it makes. A lot of people will decide that they want to learn a language as their New Year's resolution, or learn a language before they go on vacation to another country, or maybe have slight familial ties to a language and have a little bit of interest but not enough to really continue with it. All things where maybe they buy books and then don't want them anymore, and so they end up at a book sale. So even if you think that you're not going to find anything at your library book sale or at a neighboring town's library book sale, look anyway. You'll probably find something. Of course, the specific language and the quality of the materials is not always guaranteed. There's always a lot of really outdated materials and a million AP Spanish prep textbooks at my library book sale, but every single time I left with at least one book that I was extremely excited about. And like I said, I was filling up these paper bags with books, and I wasn't just picking things because they were there. I was picking things I was actually interested in. So even if they're things that maybe I haven't held on to, they were definitely things that I was excited about. A lot of it is just that I don't really hold on to materials for languages I'm not planning to get to very soon anymore, and that used to be something that I did do. But even having gotten rid of a lot of the things that I did get from those book sales, there's a lot that I've also held on to. And there were also several books that I got at that sale that I didn't get rid of without having used. There were things that I went through and then decided that I just didn't want to hold on to for the long term. So overall, I found a lot of really good stuff, and there are definitely a lot of opportunities for you to find really, really cheap books that can often be really helpful. You are, of course, limited to what people have donated, so I would recommend not going in wanting anything super specific. Maybe going in wanting something in a certain language, but I would say don't hope to find a specific textbook or anything like that. But I think if you're willing to just see what they have, it is a great way to find super cheap books and also a great way to support your local library. And then the second physical place I would recommend is your local, or if you're traveling, not local, used bookstore. The place that the majority of the books currently on my bookshelf are from is the Strand in New York City. A few weeks ago, I went to a used bookstore that didn't even advertise having any kind of language books. Found a book in Spanish I'm really excited to read for about $2. Saw a lot of language learning materials, none of which I was super interested in buying, but they were there. I know this one can be a little trickier. Again, I'm from a small town originally. We didn't have a used bookstore, so I do know that it can be a little bit more difficult to find that, but overall I would say that my biggest tip here is just to look no matter what. Every time I'm at a thrift store, I go to the book section and I look around. Recently, I haven't been finding anything, not even things that I don't want, just nothing. But because I look every time, there's been a lot of times that I have found things that I'm interested in, whether that is a novel in another language or very randomly a textbook that I've been wanting. Much like the used book sale, if you go in not necessarily wanting anything specific, but at least go in with an open mind and go in and check what they have, you'd be surprised at how much you can end up finding. And finally, somewhere that you do not have to go in person because it is online, the love of my life, ThriftBooks.com. This is not sponsored. I genuinely love ThriftBooks. I recommend it to everyone in my life, and I'm going to start off recommending it to you by just showing you a little bit of my order history. That's right, I have 2 orders for $1.05, as well as an order for 7 books for $32. These were all novels, and the price of textbooks are going to vary based on the textbook itself, but I have bought textbooks from ThriftBooks before for about $5. You can also get textbooks that are more in the $30 to $40 range, but usually that's because they're originally like $80 or $90. Basically, there are a lot of really, really good deals on ThriftBooks. Much like with the other two places, the books can be in kind of a variety of conditions, so there are some books that have writing inside or highlight inside, and then there are others that are, again, literally brand new. The good thing about ThriftBooks is they do say what the condition is, and if they have multiples of a book, they actually list different options, so you can specifically purchase books based on the kind that you want. I personally don't care if a book has a bunch of pencil marks and highlight in it and stuff, so I usually just buy whatever the cheapest textbook is. But if you are a little bit more picky about that, you don't want any writing inside, or you want to be the first one to write inside, there is still a way to make sure that you're only getting like new books. Another thing that I really like about ThriftBooks is I feel like their reward system works so well. I have gotten multiple free books, and I really don't buy books that much, and that $32 order has been my most expensive order to date, so it's also not that I'm buying really expensive orders. There's also other ways, like you get 100 points if you order through the app for the first time. You can get rewards for telling your friends about it and having them sign up with your link. You can get points for your birthday. So I'm currently trying to figure out what I want to order with my birthday points. This is going up after my birthday, so I guess check the description to see what I ended up getting. And everything is shipped super quickly and in recycled material. Overall, I have no complaints. I really love ThriftBooks. Again, not sponsored. This is just me really loving ThriftBooks. And so those are the top 3 places that I would recommend to go to find cheap language books. Obviously, there are other options as well. You can buy books on eBay or Etsy or Amazon or a wide variety of other sites. I just don't tend to use eBay or Etsy when it comes to language books, and I don't use or recommend Amazon anymore. So ThriftBooks, thrift stores, used bookstores, library sales, go off. Find all of the language learning books and books in your target language, all within your budget. I would love to hear about your favorite places to buy cheap books, either in your target language or for learning your target language. And I also would like to know what your favorite thing or the best thing that you have ever purchased at a library sale or a used bookstore is. Doesn't have to be language related. I just want to hear about all of the things that you've gotten from used bookstores. Again, I'm very sorry about dropping off the face of YouTube. I did post some updates on Twitter and Instagram while I was gone, so if you don't follow me on social media and you were very confused about where I was or just want to keep up with me in between videos, I am Polyglot Progress on Instagram, and I guess also Polyglot Progress on Twitter, just with one S. And yeah, I am back now with weekly videos, and I have some really exciting stuff planned for the coming months. I am very excited to be back to Polyglot Progress and be back to doing things other than moving. So also, I guess if you're not already subscribed but are into language learning, now would be a great time to subscribe. Promise I won't disappear on you again. I will see you next Wednesday, and remember, practice makes progress.